Life can be strange, don't you think? Imagine being an ordinary electrician and receiving a call one day from an abandoned house, one that has been empty for years. Would you dare to go? That question echoed in my mind when I received my first call. My name is David, and I am an electrician in a small neighborhood in the city. I work day by day repairing wires, installing lights, and solving electrical problems. However, I never imagined that my job would lead me to uncover a mystery as dark and troubling as the one I was about to face. Initially, I thought it was a prank. Abandoned houses, with their broken windows and desolate appearance, clearly indicate that no one dares to enter. But my curiosity, that innate impulse we all carry within, pushed me to accept the challenge. The first call was from a house at the end of Elm Street. They told me that the lights were flickering strangely, as if they wanted to communicate. When I arrived, the atmosphere enveloped me in a tense and silent shroud. The door creaked open, revealing a vestibule covered in dust and cobwebs. I stepped inside with my flashlight in hand, feeling the eyes of the past watching me from the shadows. The hallway lights began to flicker, and this was not just an electrical failure. It was a code, a rhythmic pattern that linked the lights in a message I couldn't ignore. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but as I pointed the flashlight toward the ceiling, the lights shone more brightly, as if urging me to decipher their meaning. At that moment, I stopped being just an electrician. I became a messenger for the forgotten, those who once inhabited those walls and, for some reason, had left their mark on the world. As I followed the beam of light through the house, the flickering grew more frantic, and a chill ran down my spine. It was a code that was trying to tell me a story. In the darkness of the room, I could make out an old wardrobe that had remained closed. Without thinking, I opened it abruptly and found a worn-out diary inside. The pages were yellowed and filled with scrawls. I began to read the last words written by someone who had lived there, someone who had been trapped in that space of horror and unease. It spoke of strange occurrences, lights that turned on by themselves at night, echoes of laughter resonating in the empty living room, and shadows dancing in the corners. That writing revealed the horror that had engulfed that family, a horror that not even death could quell. A sense of unease took hold of me, and I knew I had to keep going. As I left the room, the clumsiness of my steps resonated in the heavy silence surrounding me. Every door I opened seemed to scream in unison, begging me to unearth a secret that had remained dormant for years. Then, in the hallway, the lights began to play again, flickering in a more erratic pattern. My heart raced. I was convinced they were guiding me to a particular corner. When I reached a room at the back, the flickering became a desperate repetition. SOS. The mix of adrenaline and terror made me fear the worst. What had happened here? Who were the souls that still roamed these spaces, tethered to a reality from which they could not escape? While I noticed the outside didn't appear as desolate as the house itself, the suburban life continued. Children laughed, people walked by without looking back. However, within those four walls, time seemed frozen, halted by the consequences of wrong choices and kept secrets. As I cleared some dust from the window, I noticed something written on the glass. With my fingers, I carefully wiped it clean, and there appeared a name, Amelia. It was the name of one of the inhabitants, the mother of the family that had vanished under mysterious circumstances. Was her spirit calling out to me? Was her suffering still resonating within these walls? The atmosphere grew heavy and oppressive as I realized I had reached a point of no return. My steps echoed in the suffocating silence, and in my mind, Amelia's words continued to resonate. The diary spoke of a fateful night, a moment when the family heard whispers coming from the basement. Their children insisted on not going down, but fear and curiosity urged the mother to whisper that everything was all right. In the end, only she descended, and the lights began to flicker anxiously in the upper part of the house, as if trying to warn her of what was to come. All that remained of her life was now an echo in the walls of a house that refused to forget. Her story, locked in that diary, became a heart-wrenching scream for justice. No warnings or signs indicated that horror was about to be unleashed. The breath of the house surrounded me in a cold embrace as the frantic flickering of the lights reached a suffocating climax. I was running out of options and decided I could not leave without understanding what had happened. I returned to the diary, and as I read more attentively, I found a passage that spoke of a ritual they might have performed. A desperate attempt to summon energy to save themselves from a dark presence that had begun to haunt them. Those words echoed in my mind like a warning. A voice screamed at me that I needed to leave, but another kept me firmly rooted in place. The battle between duty and fear continued as I reviewed my options. Facing the looming darkness that enveloped my mind, I decided to act. I turned around and made my way back up the stairs, but something in the air changed. The house, which had once been my workplace, had now transformed into a labyrinth of shadows. With every step I took, the air grew thicker, and the whisper morphed into a heart-wrenching scream. An indescribable panic overtook me. In my mind, the lights flickered with the final message: do not look back. Each step, each fiber of my being told me I needed to leave, but the need to know, to understand, kept me rooted to that place. Finally, with a determination that felt almost supernatural, I broke the barrier of fear and started climbing the stairs. When I reached the last step, the air suddenly felt clear. I took a deep breath and looked back one last time. The lights, in their final act of life, emitted a final flicker and went dark. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something more, something I might never unravel. As I left the house, the cool night breeze enveloped me, and the weight on my chest began to dissipate. I returned to my truck with the medallion and the diary in hand, realizing that I would never look at an abandoned house the same way again. The story of Amelia and her family would become a part of me, a reminder that in every forgotten place and every dark corner, there are voices that cry out to be heard. I understood my job was not just about repairing wires and lights. It was a connection between the present and the past. That night, as I prepared to rest, a question lingered in my mind. How many more stories remain hidden in the shadows, waiting for someone to bring them back into the light? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, comment on what you thought, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Every story has a life of its own, and I invite you to be part of this journey through terror and the unknown. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.